guess there's a little bit of symmetry between how everyone in Pittsburgh thought of Rickard Rakell and what his own countrymen thought of him. Good morning to you. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates. Tonight, international hockey makes a comeback for better or worse, regardless of how into the Four Nations face-off tournament you might be. My guess, and that's all that it can be, is that for everyone, it's only going to pick up as it goes along. This is not like the Olympics where you have to waste time with games versus Norway or Latvia, and I'm trying to be respectful as I say that, Slovenia. There's only 4 countries there. And I honestly believe that even if Russia weren't rightly banned from this thing and from everything, you'd still have the 4 best cumulative, collective teams in the world. And one of those teams undoubtedly would be Team Sweden, which nearly made the single dumbest roster mistake of anybody in this thing. That's not just me speaking from a Pittsburgh perspective. That's not me speaking from someone who legitimately respects Rickard Rakell on and off the ice. It's someone who just has some common sense. Raquel has 25 goals for the Penguins, and it would not take some sort of exhaustive analysis or scouting mission to see that he has created so much of that offense. Now, I was going to say himself. That wouldn't be accurate. He's not a solo artist. What he is he's so well-rounded at everything that he can play any given role in a goal. I had a talk with him the other night in New York after that crazy goal that the Penguins scored off the rush, that he scored off the rush. 4 players total, 4 different players for Pittsburgh touched that puck. It went from Matt Grzelcyk up to Anthony Beauvillier, poked it up to Brian Rust. Rust goes across to Raquel, who came flying out of the Pittsburgh zone to begin to make that rush happen, even though the Rangers had guys back. Raquel doesn't like what he's seeing with the 2 Rangers defensemen, both coming his way. He dishes back on the backhand to Rust. Doesn't stop. Rust pulls up inside the New York blue line, waits for Raquel to keep rocketing, nails him with a pass, just a precision pass by Rust. 1 of 2 on that same sequence, incidentally. Rust goes in on Igor Shesterkin, highest paid goalie in hockey, waits him out, and does this cute little thing at the end where he just kind of flips the puck over him. So I talked to him about this afterward, and I asked him, what was it that you saw that had you so convinced that you were going to get the puck back not once but twice? And he said, I trust Rusty. I trusted that he was going to be able to do that. I trust that he was going to keep an eye out for me and that he was going to hit me. And he did, not once but twice. Gave the credit away. I asked even about that move. What was that thing? It almost looked like the old, the classic Pavel Datsyuk penalty shot. You know which one I'm talking about, where he cuts across to his right, he peels the puck back and just flips it, like almost as if he's, use a Pittsburgh term here, almost as if he's being a jagoff, right? He just wants to really embarrass the guy. And Raquel quickly shot that down. He was like, no. I saw a space there. I was just trying to get it there. Who knows? But what's cool about Raquel, and you could kind of say this about Rust as well, is that there's nothing that he does where you say, oh, I didn't know he had that. I didn't see that in his arsenal before. Even if you didn't see it in his arsenal before, it's not going to surprise you, because from the day that he arrived, really, in the Anaheim trade, you could see immediately that this is someone who could use his size, his speed, and his skill in an uncommon combination of all 3 to produce offense. Now, on those occasions when it's come up with the geniuses running Team Sweden as to how he could have been left off that roster, all these months, the only thing that Raquel would hear back is that they based it on his last NHL season, 2023-24. Okay, why? It's a super short tournament. It's one of the very few situations in organized sport where you can base almost everything about your decision on the moment, but doubly so when that moment runs for 4 months and change, as it has for Raquel. Were you not paying attention last year what actually went wrong with Raquel? How terrific he was in every setting. Even when he went through the first, 20 games without scoring a goal, eventually he started squeezing his stick. He started struggling. It was a rare event in his career. And then just as he starts putting the puck in the net, he gets hurt for a long stretch, comes back, and he was just himself again. So everything that we've seen this season was just a carryover of the latter part of last season. Well, here's what I'll do. Instead of belaboring that, I'm going to give credit to everybody involved in running that operation because they could have hidden from this mistake, and they didn't. Tonight, against Canada, against Sidney Crosby, Raquel is going to be on Sweden's top line next to William Nylander, Mika Zibanejad. And I don't know how long ago this was determined, but I do know that I saw Raquel and Zibanejad talking it up in the hallway between the Penguins and Rangers locker rooms at Madison Square Garden the other night. Hey, better late than never. I would say that this is his time to shine, but he's been doing that for quite a while now. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Michael, who says, DK, I know that if Sidney Crosby was cleared to play the Penguins in either New York or Philadelphia, he would have. And on your show, you reported that he was cleared to play only when he got to Montreal for the Four Nations tournament. Do you know if it was the Penguins doctors or Team Canada's doctors who cleared him for the tournament? Michael, I know what you're asking. I appreciate why you're asking it. You're a Penguins fan who wants to have the Penguins be the first priority. You're a Penguins fan who took the games in New York and Philadelphia, from the sound of it, as seriously as they did themselves. And I completely respect your stance. Presuming I'm right anyway, that's your stance. The correct answer to that question, based on what I was told, this was in New York, not Philadelphia, was that the Penguins doctors made the decision as it related to New York. Nothing was said there about anything related to Philadelphia. Now, Sid gets to Montreal. Sid talks to reporters up there, including our own Taylor Haas, by the way. She's up there covering the event for DK Pittsburgh Sports. And Sid says, for the first time, that when he was ruled out of the Penguins games, it was for both New York and Philadelphia, meaning in the one fell swoop. And that kind of makes sense because if you think about, if it was just a regular normal hockey situation, you don't often see someone get ruled out of the front end of a back-to-back situation. You'll see them get ruled out of both. And then if it's something that looks like it could linger a little bit, they'll give the extra little cushion. Okay, so that's the Penguins part of it. I was also told in New York that everything that would happen after that would be in Team Canada's domain, but that because Kyle Dubas obviously is heavily involved with both, there'd be some continuity. Now, this is where I'm going to give you an answer that, I don't know, maybe you won't like this or whatever, because there's an assumption, I think, that a team's doctors will do the team favors. And maybe that's true. Okay, maybe that's true somewhere. Maybe that's true with teams that I haven't covered. I have never, ever seen something like that with any of the three teams that I've covered for the better part of my life. And when there is an unusual situation like this, where there's how would you term this, like a transferring of the patient? Well, there's also a discussion. There's a conversation. When Sid got to Montreal, those doctors already would have known absolutely everything there was to know from the Penguins medical team. And believe you me, if the Penguins medical team had some sort of strong stance on this, the Canada doctors would have said, okay, we're not touching that one. But I feel that it's important here, as opposed to just saying, stop picking on Sid, trust Sid, who are you to doubt Sid, or anything like that, to actually give you some information here and to support this. The prognosis for Sid in New York sounded very, very little different from the prognosis that ended up getting him cleared by the time he got to Canada. I was at rinkside, watching him skate around, watching him shoot, watching him do stuff. I have no doubt, just based on nothing other than that if this were Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, he'd have been, he would have done whatever. He'd have put a cast on or whatever. But this wasn't that. So even if you just wanted to look at this from the Pittsburgh perspective and completely ignored Four Nations, okay, like it didn't exist, if there was any kind of doubt, would have held him out of both of those games for the pure mathematical reason that there are still 25 games to be played. If Sid were to aggravate the injury or worse, you can forget all of those other 25 games. You can forget the whole thing. Even if they were to sneak into the playoffs somehow, which they're not going to be able to do, meaning sneak in, they're going to have to, soar their way in, surge their way up. Well, from there, you'd need Sid in the playoffs. But again, I appreciate the question. I appreciate why it's asked. And I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins. This could be fun tonight, right? Let's have some fun with it. The whole thing. And we'll talk about it again tomorrow.